Hello. Okay, so right after, well, at 2:45, we're going to go into Letitia Stout and then her change of plea and then the true crime headlines. But I did watch something on HBO about Jim Jones as well earlier. That's why I'm a little late. And so just to recap, yesterday, what we hold on a minute. Let me see what we got. I've got to get in. I'm not in the live chat at all. That's not good. Tammy, Kevin, Tracy B, Nova. Hi, Nova. Did you just change your name? Did you used to be something else? Because I see you're a long-time member, but I don't recognize your name. Did your name used to be something else? Mary Beth. Where am I? Tracy B. Michael. Flower Girl Phillips. Okay. Puddin'. But what we learned yesterday was that Jim Jones' mother was a teller of tales. Hi, Linda. Hi, Lucy. She told a lot of tales that were not true. She had multiple marriages before she married Jim Jones' father, also Jim Jones, who had a gas attack in World War I that left him a shell of a person that he was. And he was much older than her. She resented the marriage. I don't know why she married him, but because it didn't seem like, it was any big whirlwind romance. Hi, Susan. Hi, Chris Ree. And he would go to the pool hall mostly. The mother cursed like a sailor. She smoked. She wasn't like the other mothers. And they lived in Indiana. But if you listen to the mother, the story changes all the time about what year she was born and hi, Aunt She. And different things about her family. But they lived first in Crete and then went to Lynn. And the mother got a job when Jim Jones Jr. went to first grade. And so he started to walk around the town. He would befriend the other women that lived there. He always ate at their homes, always told them it was the best meal he ever had. Quickly, he learned how to say the right things to people. He knew how to connect with them by pretending that he really liked something that they really liked. So he became a manipulator very early. And he started to go to the Church of the Nazarene because one of these neighbor ladies that, took a liking to him, and he went over there all the time, introduced him to that because his parents didn't take him to any church. And there were a number of churches in the town. But the woman that took him there, Mrs. Kennedy, wanted him to go to the Church of the Nazarene. That's the only one that she, believed was worth anything. But he decided to check them all out. And then when he got to the Pentecostal church where they were speaking in tongues and everything, he was especially drawn in by that. And he would carry a Bible with him wherever he went, at a certain age, okay? And he tried to get like the most, I guess I don't want to say the prettiest girl in town, but maybe one of the most popular sought after girls. And he was constantly going after her, even though she had a boyfriend, and that didn't end well for him when the boyfriend said, I'm going to take you out and beat you up. He did not want to get in any confrontation or fights with other guys. He ran away from that. He would also show emotion, like he would cry a lot, especially in a time when boys didn't cry. He would cry. He had a lot of emotion. He started to preach in this church. And he started to preach just walking around in the woods in general, doing funerals for roadkill, okay? It was nuts. And they said there was one time that he hurt a dog by letting him fall through like a trap door, but they said they didn't really know if that was just a one-time thing because nobody had ever seen him do anything like that before. He did kind of weird things like they were in the loft area of a barn or warehouse. They went into the warehouse full of caskets, and he would try to get people in to that warehouse, kids to go in with him and lay in the caskets. And he talked about death a lot and try to imagine your dad in the casket. And after a while, the other kids didn't even want to go with him. He would go alone for sometimes. Hope I'm not on mute. No. There was also a time where they had some beams. I believe it was in a barn in a loft area, and they were going to walk across them with these two other brothers that he was friends with, like a tightrope walker, and the two brothers went out ahead of him. And then the one got scared and said, I want to go back. And Jim Jones was standing on the beam and said, like, no, you're not coming back. He was scaring him using, scare tactics. And then he eventually let him come back over. So they moved into a larger town, but the mother started to have an affair. And eventually the father died. He never had a real relationship with his father. His father couldn't do things that the other boys' fathers did. And back then, they bonded, by doing things. Fathers teaching their sons stuff. And his father was in no condition, hi, Carol boys, to do any of that kind of stuff that they did. So he didn't really bond. And if he had to make a choice, he would always choose the mother, even though the mother, like I said, she wasn't like other mothers, but she believed that and always told him that he was like destined for greatness. She says she had a vision, and he was destined for this greatness. But she kind of thought she was too. She was disgruntled with the father's family because she felt they didn't help them enough. What was I going to say about her? She didn't let him go into the house after school. That's how he especially started hanging out at these other homes. She would not let him go into the house after school if she wasn't home, which everybody thought was pretty bizarre. But yet, she would go into town every Saturday after he would just take candy bars all week, and she would pay for whatever candy he took, and she thought that was a great thing, that he would be bold enough to just do that. Hi, WV, Carol Clark, Larky, and everybody else, Ignata Patty that came in, video reel. And so he ended up, hold on a minute, what was that? I was just looking at something. So that's basically what we covered yesterday. I'm trying to think if there was anything else that we covered yesterday. Oh, he got jobs. His mother had to get jobs to pay for things, but she did buy him expensive toys and things, so he did have stuff like that. Carolyn, you just watched a David Sparks in a mine shaft. They found bones in women's pants. Oh, really? Interesting. Okay, we'll have to check that out later. So, let's see. Trying to think where we were. What was I going to say? The mother got him expensive toys when she could, and he knew how to relate to others. He was... And that, and then when he was going to college, he was able to work a job, go to college. He graduated when he went to the bigger town. When they moved to the bigger town, he went and he skipped a semester, was able to skip a semester of high school and graduate early. And he was able to do that while he was working in a hospital as an orderly. And he didn't mind doing the less desirable tasks very obligingly, okay, with a smile on his face, he would do these tasks that really nobody else wanted to do. And he had a way to relate to all of the patients that he dealt with, no matter what was the issue. And he was able to relate to them. And then the next thing that he did was in the part of Indiana where they were, it was very, very white. And in fact, the Ku Klux Klan had moved up there from the South, right? And he would preach even that, all about equal rights and the other things that he would do. So not only for minorities like African Americans would he say that everybody needs to be treated equally and all of this stuff. He would preach it for that, but he did it for women too later on. Okay, and that's what I just was seeing in that it's not HBO, it's on HBO, but it's not made by HBO. But yes, that he would come out for women, for women's rights, and for women to be heard, and for women to be free. And so he was trying to connect with people that felt oppressed in some way. Okay, and I think because probably he felt he could be their savior. It would be easier to have them look at him as a god, as someone that was trying to help them. Okay? And you're watching me and curling? Curling what? With weights or curling your hair? Oh, I'm sorry, Video Reel. Prayers and condolences. Sorry. Hi, Isabel. And I did see on what I was watching earlier, his son, speaking out about his father and what his father was like and what Jonestown was like and when they made the move to Jonestown. But yeah, prayers, Kevin, for your loss there too and your partner. So that's basically what we covered yesterday I did add a few things that were not there yesterday. I am on live chat. Why? Am I really? But my chat is very far behind. I don't know why, but it is. Olympic curling? Oh, got you. Got you. Hi, Christine. So yeah, so that's where we were on that, and we were at the point where he was deciding on college, and then knowing that if he went to college, he would have to work a job. But like I said, it was very easy for him. He was doing it in high school, working as an orderly. So that was all very easy to him. And then he was, comparing going into medicine or being a preacher, So that's where we were yesterday. Let me see here. Yeah, what I was watching Very Scary People, Season 1, Jim Jones' Unholy Massacre. shoot, why is that not going there? Hold on a minute, guys, I'm trying to get this. Why is this not going up? Oh, here we go. Okay. Okay, so about his wife, Marceline, and some of you were asking, did she die at Jonestown? And indeed she did. So they moved to Richmond. And that's after the father died, and he went to, like I said, he went to high school there. And that's where he met Marceline's father. Now he was, let me see, he was a politician. As he was working in the Reed Memorial Hospital. So Marceline, who became his wife, she was born in 1927. And she rebelled from her parents just a little bit. And her parents, Charlotte and Walter Baldwin, they settled down. They married, settled down in an attractive house. And they had 3 lovely daughters, Marceline, Eloise, and Sharon. Sharon was a late-in-life baby, and she was 11 years younger than Marceline and 9 years younger than Eloise. And the Baldwins were active members in the Methodist Church. So let's see. The little sister Sharon always had health problems, and Marceline was always devoted to the little Sharon, the late-in-life baby. She worked hard in school. She inherited her father's musical talent. She had a sweet singing voice. She sang in church on Sundays, solos. So as a graduation from high school, got closer, she had good enough grades to go to college. And she wanted to spend her life helping others. She liked visiting Reed Memorial, where Jim Jones was working. She would bring flowers and little trinket things to the sick people there. She loved comforting the patients, but she didn't really like Richmond. Let's see, and she met Jim Jones. She told her cousin that she met a boy and fell in love with him, and that's her cousin. And she said she never told her anything about him before. And when she told her that it was Jim Jones, she couldn't believe it, especially since he was so much older than Marceline was. But it was all she thought about. So she decided to take up nursing, and she was a senior nursing student in 1948. And she was preparing a deceased body to go to the undertaker, and she asked if an orderly could assist her because it was very difficult. Well, guess who came moseying along? Jim Jones. He had a considerable reputation around the hospital for always having high spirits, and it was really horrible because the deceased woman was pregnant and she died of trichinosis, undercooked pork. But he acted very solemn and respectful, and he helped the very attractive nurse Marceline get their duties done, washing the body, etc. And that's how they met. She was a good listener. They would spend their breaks together. Now, there's not a big age difference, only 3.5 years. They should talk about me and Jimmy with how many years we have. Marceline's friends were pleased that she had found someone. They were surprised that... Hold on a minute. He was... Hold on 1 second here. What is going on here? Why did the cousin say... I'm sorry. Scratch that. Scratch that. She was 3.5 years older. He was younger. Now I understand, because back then that was a... They had a hard time accepting that she would be with somebody 3.5 years younger, because they didn't do that, and that's why it was such a big deal. No wonder. But they got married June 12th of 1949 at the Trinity Methodist Church in Richmond. It was a double wedding. And Eloise, Marceline's sister, married Dale Klineman. It was a traditional ceremony. The brides wore matching gowns of dusty rose organza over dusty rose taffeta. And there was a lengthy article written about them in the Richmond Daily newspaper. And Mr. and the new Mr. and Mrs. Jones, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, set up their new household in Bloomington. And Jim went to school for the summer, taking courses in economic history and advanced public speaking, while Marceline still lived with her parents, and she continued working at Reed and saving money to move to Bloomington in the fall, because they didn't have enough money right away, but that's where they went. And Jim lived with the Baldwins on the weekends, but problems soon sprouted. Marceline's mother believed that she had the right to say whatever she pleased in her own home, and one weekend after the wedding, she said that it was her opinion that it was not Christian for people of different races to intermarry. And as he recalls, Jim, the mother was not very nice when speaking about black people, and called them a racial slur, the N-word, okay? So she was not very nice at all. And she compared them to communists, and she berated her new son-in-law for thinking that, they could be equal and yada, yada, yada. And he said, "I have had enough of your religious hypocrisy, and I'm sick of you. And I will never sit at your table as long as I live, and you'll never see me as long as you live." And he told his wife, Marcy, "You're going to have to choose between me and that biatch." And that was his own version in an interview, okay, that he gave with the in the People's Temple, that was published by the People's Temple, which is his temple. Now, Marceline also talked about that in that interview, but she was not as vulgar. And I quote, she said, "My mother made some remark about it not being Christian to intermarry, and Jim started throwing our stuff in bags and suitcases, and we got in the car, and my parents didn't know where we were for a long time. And when we went back to Richmond, we'd go and stay at Jim's mother's place. And if my parents walked in the front door, we walked out the back door. And this went on until finally my parents had to bend. There was no compromise." And Marceline soon discovered that Jim didn't compromise in anything, okay? She married him with the understanding that he believed in the God of the Bible and trusted in his wisdom, but the newlyweds were barely settled in their tiny little off-campus apartment when Marceline said that Jim didn't believe in her God at all. When Jim told Marceline, yeah, because a just God would never allow so much human misery. That's what Jim said to her. And, I don't know if you know this, but he had terrible language. Like his mother did it, when it was... She cursed like a sailor, and he did too. And that was one of the things he did, like around the high school boys that didn't do it back then especially. He would do it and to try to be amusing to them, but it just got worse as he became older. And so he said a lot of things that you would never expect a preacher to say, like F the Lord and stuff like that. So Marceline didn't take kindly to this, and one time they were washing dishes and she's like, don't say stuff like that against God, and he said F the Lord, and to which she threw a glass at him. They would argue about God's goodness or the lack of it. One time they did this when they were driving, and Marceline was driving. And she said she couldn't take it anymore. You either change this or get out of the car. And they were in the middle of nowhere. And Jim said, stop the car. And he stepped out. He said to himself, this marriage is broken. I'm not going to give up. I'm not compromising. This is the way I think, and that's it. And he walked, and for several hours until she finally came back, and she was the one to bend. So he didn't bend at all in anything, okay? After that, she just didn't argue with him, basically, about his faith. She considered divorce at some times, but she didn't go through with it, even though her family said she would be welcomed back home. And her youngest sister, Sharon, divorced. And her parents, Walter and Shirley, gladly took her in with her children, so Marceline would have been taken in as well. Second year in college, Jim was not as successful academically, so he withdrew from several classes. He's still expected to achieve great things, as his mother said, remember? And Marceline coaxed Jim into attending Methodist services, hoping that it would change his views on God. Marceline's parents tried to make him feel welcome. Another of her relatives tried to appeal to him. Okay, so there was a cousin, Ronnie. He was 9 years old, and he had a tough life. His father died when he was 4, and he had an unstable mother, so he was moved to a foster family. And he had 2 older brothers, but they were living in friends with other relatives or foster families. The boys were always separated. Little Ronnie felt lonely and unloved, and in 1950, he was in a foster family, and he had severe abdominal pain, couldn't stand straight, and the foster family said that, oh, he's just faking it. He's faking it as an excuse to miss school. And there was a family gathering in which Ronnie wasn't there, but his brother Charles was, and they told Marceline about what was happening. And Marceline's like, wait a second, there's something wrong with this kid. So she and Jim rushed the little boy to the hospital, where they found out that his appendix was indeed ruptured, and if they hadn't gotten to the hospital just then, he would have died. So when he recovered, they put him in another foster family, because that foster family was obviously not good for him. And some of the Baldwins invited the boy to come live with them, and it was a sacrifice on their part. Okay. But then it was Marceline and Jim that opened up their house to him. They welcomed him. Now he was 10 years old, and he had his own room, and they got him a bicycle, even though they were really burdened with the work and studies. They took him on trips to the movies and on short weekend trips to Niagara Falls in Canada. They suggested that Ronnie call them mom and dad, but Ronnie said he wasn't comfortable with that. But then there were problems. On some nights, Jim would summon Ronnie and launch into long, graphic conversations about sex. He was determined that the boy should know every possible detail. And if you remember, when he was a teenager, he was telling kids all the details about that. And then the parents were like, where is he learning that stuff from? And as Gross said, it is Ronnie gave an interview once where he said that he thinks if Marceline had been willing, Jim would have given him a real live demonstration. And so then Ronnie, like Jim, dazzled his friends with this new knowledge that he learned at the elementary school. And he told Ronnie that his mother was a whore because she lived with a man out of wedlock, and he demanded that Ronnie accept him and Marceline as his new parents. But Ronnie said no. He was hopeful that his mother would get the life together, get all their brothers back together under one roof, and that would be good. Ronnie decided that Jim was two-faced, all friendly and nice outside the house and much different at home. When they were in Indianapolis now, Jim was taking University of Indiana courses, and he was making B's in them. Completing his college education was no longer really his primary concern. He knew what he wanted to do in life, and it began with a renewed commitment to socialism. Jim began attending meetings and gatherings of avowed communists and sympathizers. He was in his element there. He listened carefully to every speech. Oh, remember, he loved Hitler. I forgot to tell you that yesterday. I'd like to remind you of that. He loved Hitler. He admired Hitler. He just found it great that this one man could sit and stand in front of all these crowds and had all these people that just would do anything for him. He would play Hitler, you know. That was another thing he did with kids when he was younger. And now he's going to these socialist sympathizer meetings, and he's first listening to their speeches. Okay, and then he was making a lot of notes. He was writing the stuff down, and he was making everyone in there really nervous because they didn't know, you know, what he was doing that for, what he was going to report. They didn't know. So let's see. So he kept going to different churches. He was tired of the Methodist church, but the preachers made him nervous. There was always a strict order of worship, which he didn't like. Okay, everything was decided in advance, which he didn't like. Had a rigid time frame, which he didn't like. And he wanted an open-ended worship that embraced African Americans. They made plans in the meantime to formally adopt Ronnie, who had been living with them for a year, but they didn't really consult Ronnie until after the legal documents were all drawn up for him to accept, and grateful as he was, he wouldn't agree to them. He didn't want to be adopted by them. He still held that hope that his mother would get her life together and he would be reunited with his mother and his brothers. Marceline was very hurt, but Jim Jones was completely outraged, and he just went off the rails at Ronnie for an entire night, warning him that his mother was an unrepentant whore. And that Ronnie was going to regret this decision, and he gave up the love and security that he could have. But Ronnie didn't, concede to that at all. Jones just went over this and over this and over this for the entire night into the morning, and then he sent Ronnie on back to his mother in Richmond. Ronnie thought that was the end of it. His mother was doing better. She enrolled Ronnie in a local elementary school, but one day when Ronnie was in school, he got a call at this classroom to go to the principal's office. There was an urgent phone call, and it was Jim Jones calling from Indianapolis to tell Ronnie that him leaving had broken Marceline's heart and started to guilt him. And now would he please come back and let them adopt him, but he still refused. At the end of September, Marceline's parents had a family get-together, and when Ronnie arrived there, Jim and Marceline were already at the gathering. As soon as Ronnie saw Jim Jones, he turned and ran, certain that if he saw Jim, Jim would never leave him alone. And Jim Jones took off in his car and chased Ronnie, cornering him outside the boy's house. But Ronnie's older brother, Dean, confronted Jim Jones, said, "Go away, leave my brother alone, stop this," from that moment on. And finally, Jim Jones left Ronnie alone. And that had Jim Jones and Marceline turned to another child, and it was an 11-year-old that they met during Jim Jones's student ministry. Now, this was a female child. Her background was a mystery, but within months of losing Ronnie, they formally adopted the little girl, and she was named Agnes. Jones had always been a showman. His healings, he did this healings, and that's what I was seeing on there too. He was interested in healings, which his son said were all fake, and there was fermented chicken that he gave these people to eat. So he would bring people in and say, "Oh, she's just cured of cancer," and he did a lot of that stuff, and people temporarily believed they were healed. All of that stuff that. So his son was like quite disgusted with him. If you watched on HBO those episodes of, or is it Really Bad People? So what about the People's Temple? Because that's where everything ends, right? So he wanted to establish himself as a top-tier traveling preacher. That would position him to bring in badly needed money. He wanted to own, not rent, a much bigger building for community unity. So his performances were carefully structured. They continued to combine, and this is what his son is talking about. This is all fake. The Bible quoting rhetoric with healings. He had a fine sense of just how many miracles to perform at each service. And he commanded headaches to vanish, coughs to desist, and on very rare occasions the lame to walk. The miracles didn't always come off as Jones would like them, or his audiences hoped. He was dealing with strangers and couldn't count on their cooperation. Let's see. And this fermented chicken was like absolutely disgusting. I don't know why he was using that. So when he was doing this, his crowds started, to increase. He held good-sized crowds, but there was a turning point in September of 1954, and as Marceline described the scene in a letter to Jim's mother, Lynetta, she said, and I quote this, "Dearest Mom, I feel that I must write you of the latest developments in the life of your beloved son. Through all of our tests and hardships, I had faith that Jimmy would be something special. This, however, is beyond our fondest dreams. Saturday night in Cincinnati, 200 people were turned away, while over 1,000 stayed." So his crowds were getting bigger, and he was at community unity, preaching about helping each other, being a true family. His reputation began to grow, but he was frustrated. His audience drew in thousands, but still he couldn't preach the socialist themes that formed the basis of his real philosophy. So he could get the crowds together, but couldn't get them politicized. He had a lot of pressure because he had to have these healings at every service. He knew that other healers used plants in the audience. Okay. So, he went to... I'm trying to see what the chicken... He started to say his healing started to become they had to be more believable to be genuine. And so he proclaimed that he cured a toddler of a serious heart defect, and that the parents took the child to a heart specialist who examined the boy and said that his heart was fine. So people were starting to believe that he had these powers to heal. And there was a new type of drama. This was what I saw tonight. Drama, okay, was what he wanted at these services, and the drama that he would, remove cancerous masses from people, and he would take the chicken. That's what the fermented chicken was. Ugh. The disgusting mass, and it was fermented chicken. So it was, he allowed it to rot so that it actually smelled, and it was the healing accomplished and stuff like that. The assistants would take away the disgusting mass. It's disgusting. Not all of the healings involved chicken guts, passed off as cancer. He laid hands on people. He commanded aches or tremors or chills to be gone. Word spread that Pastor Jones now practiced healings at Community Unity. And people would bring their kids there, with a 7-year-old that had dizzy spells and ear ailments. And his base started to grow and grow and grow. And they started to buy more property, including, there was something that he wanted that was left by a Jewish congregation. It cost $50,000. Jones promised he would raise the money to pay for it in full, and within a year he did, from collections and out-of-town appearances. So he learned how to, get that money. What time is it? Because, okay, we still have 15 minutes here now. Interesting on this, Ulster County, huh? The movement acquired extensive farmland in Ulster County, New York, and named it Promised Land. Most produce grown there was fed those living in the Peace Mission communities. Father Divine meant for his people to be self-sufficient. In late 1956 or 1957, Jim Jones requested a meeting with Father Divine. He was particularly struck by the staff of worshipful women in the mansion who were eager to act on their leader's behalf. He was a leader who was appreciated. Jones undoubtedly told Divine about the People's Temple programs, free food and clothing, and well-maintained nursing homes. Agnes, meanwhile, that child they adopted, became the ideal child for them. She was able to overcome a stuttering problem she had. She was happy, smiling, and she was critical to their public image. But she didn't fit in because they wanted a happy, smiling family. He and Marceline didn't consider giving Agnes up because she had a balky, unpredictable personality. They decided to add more children instead. Marceline's had health problems and she would have complicated pregnancies even if she managed to carry a baby to term, so they decided to adopt. She said she proposed a rainbow family, why not adopt multiple children of different races, and she and Jim would love the children, of course, and try to be the best possible parents. So a black baby was their obvious first choice, but never in Indiana had a white couple adopted a black baby. They decided to begin with an Asian child, and since there was none available in their home state, they traveled to California where they met and adopted 2 Korean orphans, a 4-year-old girl they named Stephanie and a 2-year-old boy they named Lou. Children fit in perfectly into their home, and Marceline and Jim Jones adored them. So did the whole congregation of the People's Temple. Lynetta still didn't care for kids. No. Now, at the time Stephanie and Lou arrived, Marceline learned that she was pregnant. Thought of giving birth to one of her own was thrilling. The pregnancy was uncomfortable from the start, but she was a trained nurse and she knew how to take care of herself. As she got closer to term, she cut back on her outside activities, and the temple women were glad to, lend a hand and help her. She was in the final weeks of pregnancy. She was able to rest, and there was a temple trip to Cincinnati, even though there were many rainy weekends and thunderstorms, and they carpooled vehicles, and everyone had to find if wet time. And on the way home, Stephanie Jones, the little Korean girl, was riding with one of the other congregants, and on the way home they were hit squarely by a drunk driver, and she died instantly. So when they went to bury her, they had another blow because no cemetery in Indianapolis would allow her Asian body to be interred next to whites. Only a black mortician would prepare her for burial, and the Jones were directed to cemetery sections that were for African Americans, which were in the worst areas. It was still storming when Stephanie was laid to rest, and the hole dug for her coffin was half full of water. And Jim Jones was sobbing, saying, "Oh, shite, it was cruel, cruel." 3 weeks later, Marceline gave birth to a baby boy who they named Stephen, spelling it with an A-N rather than the traditional E-N to honor his deceased sister. So, after Stephanie died, Marceline was resting in bed, and on the rainy night of the accident, she was too tired to wait for them. She fell asleep only to be awakened by Stephanie outside of the porch calling, "Mommy, let me in." She got up, brought the girl inside, and asked, "Where's your father?" And she said, "Oh, Boke needs a mommy and a daddy," and Marceline didn't understand what was going on. Jim Jones then had to identify his daughter's body and arrange for her remains to be transported back to Indianapolis. He broke the news to Marceline that she had died in a car crash, and Marceline insisted it couldn't be true because Stephanie had come home in the middle of the night and she was asleep in her room. But when they went in there, her bed was made. There was nobody there. She couldn't forget about what the little girl said about Obok. So they contacted an adoption agency and learned that Stephanie had a 6-year-old sister named Oboki. And she was still in the Korean orphanage, so they accepted that as a sign and went and adopted the girl, who they renamed Suzanne. So for the rest of her life, she believed that was a vision and told that story all the time. They didn't complete their rainbow family with Suzanne in 1961. They defied an Indiana tradition and adopted a black infant. They named the child James Warren Jones Jr. The People's Temple grew. Jim Jones continued making appearances in the revival circuit. He developed a schedule, speaking regularly in Indiana, Michigan, and Ohio. All right, so let's see here. I think we're going to stop maybe there. I don't know. I'm trying to see. You know, that he started to abuse drugs, started to become very paranoid. That was on the HBO, because that would talk more about when they moved to Guyana, you know, going up towards the end. I'm probably going to stop there. I don't know. So otherwise it's... You know, they make their way eventually out to California, and then when there's an investigation, because in 1977, there started to become, there was an article about him, and that led to an investigation, which they took off for Guyana and started JonesTown over there. And then November of 78, that was the end. But over there, I mean, he was having sex with men, women, forcing people to do things. He once had people drink over there this stuff, and then he told them it was all poison and they were going to die in 45 minutes, just to see how devoted they would be to him, or what it would be like. He did stuff like that. He would put guns to people's heads. Him and his son said, "I'm not afraid to die," or whatever. Put a gun under his neck, and then the father put gun in his mouth. It's just like lots of very crazy things going on. Again, the drug use, the paranoia. But he wanted to see how much these people trusted him, what they would do for him, you know. Oh, and then, yeah, exactly what we said about any cult. The people that would leave, they were humiliated, punished, all this stuff. Exactly what we said, so that the people say, I'm not going to leave because I'm not going to have that done to me. And this woman that was in the HBO thing, she was saying that her children, 4 children, went to Guyana, and when they boarded the plane, she said, like, just had a really feeling that I would never see my children again, and she never did. So yeah, if you have HBO, you should watch that, and perhaps we can watch it on a movie night or something for members and Patreons. But it's just 2 episodes that are in there, and it's all about the end, Jonestown, basically. Okay, there's a little bit, about his early life, but just like how I just went through it. It's mostly with Jonestown. So I'm going to stop right there, and I'm going to go back to the chat, see what you guys have to say, and then we have Letitia Stout coming up next in another live. It's going to be all by itself, and I'm waiting for this to catch up because my chat is really far behind. Very far behind. Am I on HBO? Am I HBO? Am I on YouTube? Oh my gosh, am I on HBO? You're down for the movie night to see that? Okay. Yeah, well, it's 2 episodes of very bad people. What is it? Very bad people. It's with the one with the Wahlberg guy. Hi, Deborah Van Coverden. What seasons? This is boring to house? What does that mean? I'm on YouTube. I know, Kevin. I'm on YouTube and not HBO. I haven't made it to HBO yet. Is there going to be an auction tomorrow? Oh, I'm going to tell you about that. What I think is going to happen is we were thinking that there may be an auction. What season? Is that really seasons? I guess it is, but I don't understand what she's saying. This is boring the house, and now she has I don't know. Sorry, seasons. Sorry that you find Jim Jones boring. Sorry about that. Okay, anyway, so let me see. Hi, Tevis. Okay, I'm trying to see what seasons is typing. So what I think we're going to do is Sunday is what people want to do. Sunday is Super Bowl, and a lot of people, are not into football. But then again, there are some people that... So I wanted to do like some auction on Saturday and some on Sunday. Okay? I'm not sure whether we would start later on Saturday and move... Oh, thanks, seasons. Okay, so I don't know. And I said, we could even continue it depending through the night, like if people like Lisa D wanted to come on and sell, and they got up at like 3 o'clock in the morning and wanted to sell. Okay, so I don't know yet. There'll definitely be auctions this weekend. I'm just not sure of the timing of them. but I know people have things to sell, and It's Bink is going to get up there first because she got bumped at the last one, and we are going to change things up. We have a few minutes to discuss before Letitia Stout comes up, but we are going to discuss some changes, okay? So here's some of the changes. Because people were getting bumped and some people weren't getting time, and Deb on the Move, I don't know where she went, but It's Bink and Deb on the Move would be up, first, because they didn't get their time due to the Zoom closing, and then, I don't know, me running home and not knowing what was going on because I was at the restaurant and all that stuff, right? So, but the other thing is, a couple of things we were thinking. Goodnight seasons. A couple of things that we were thinking was that maybe we should have, oh, okay, Kevin, yeah, it wouldn't be before 3, definitely not. We could have people on there, and I thought of this, and then Scooter thought of this too. Like, say you have 3 people there. Let's say you have Dandy, It's Bink, and Linda Gelb. Then you would have 3 of them on there, and you would spotlight one, and Dandy would hold up this. We're going to bid on this. And if there was no interest on it, she wouldn't go on to another item. It would go to the next person, It's Bink, and It's Bink would say, we're going to bid on this. And if there was interest on it, we would bid on it. Now, then she would bid it, okay, this sold. Then it would still be Deb on the Move that would come up next, selling this. Okay, if there's no interest, it goes back to Dandy, blah, 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 like that. Or people can have, increments of 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and then on to the next one. And they can keep coming back. So I don't know which one you'd like, whether rotating them like that, just like boom, boom, like try to, everybody holds up one thing. If it's there, then they'll go and go on to the next one. Because I thought that even when we had a split screen, like when there were 2 people up there, like say Linda and Dandy, they would say, Dandy would show an item, any interest? No. Okay, Linda, and then once they got the interest on one of their items, then you'd put the one person full screen. What do you think? Or have a set time frame of, okay, you can come up and sell for 20 minutes. And then it goes to the next one for 20 minutes and the next one for 20 minutes. And then they can keep coming back, but 20 minutes. So I don't know. What do you think? I think there should be a set time on each item that's being bid on. Well, you can't really do that because let's say you put this up, and people are bidding like crazy. You can't just stop it. That's not fair to the person. You wouldn't want that if let's just say you had this putting and you didn't think this was worth a lot of money because you didn't know that it was Fenton glass and it was the only one ever made, and you just put it up there like this and you're like, starting bid $5. And then somebody like Jackie Burns is like, let me see the bottom of that. And then Jackie Burns is like, oh my gosh, that's that rare Fenton piece. And just by Jackie Burns saying that, everybody's looking it up on eBay and finding out that it's worth $10,000. And so now there's a bidding war, okay? So you can't stop that when there's people bidding and just say, okay, stop, cool it. That's not fair to the person selling this very, very rare Fenton piece. So that, if you're talking about there's no bids coming, that's different. But if people are bidding like crazy on something because they know it's worth $10,000, then that person should be able to realize the worth, what people are willing to pay for her item. That's what I think. Hi, Nancy. Moving from 1 to 1, except, okay, I'll take a vote. I'll put up a poll. But yeah, once there's bidding going on, you can't just, and there people are bidding, you can't stop that. It doesn't stop at a regular auction. At a regular auction, they'll take it all the way until there's no more bidders. Until they have just one bidder left. That's it. They don't say, okay, we're just going to cool it, because no, you want to go high, high, high. And if you were selling it, you would want your item to go for the highest possible price. If it's a rare piece, set it. No, but no, let's say it's going well, though, LMN. Let's say that people know that this is like this very rare Fenton, and they're bidding on it. You know, Jackie Burns is like 100, and then York Hill's like 200, and someone's like 300. You know, okay, cool it, guys. That's enough. We've done enough. You know what I mean? Let them realize, like how Dandy had that mug, and the mug started to go for $55, right? She didn't think the mug was going to go for $55, but it did. So let somebody have that realization, because a lot of times, sometimes they pick up a necklace that, you know, oh, this is a turquoise necklace, this should be $60, and they end up selling it for $10. So, you know what I mean? Do you just have to have PayPal? Well, if somebody that's selling has Cash App or another means, then yes, you can bid on their items, but you need to find out what they have. But when somebody's bidding, you don't just stop it. You know, you don't. Okay, time's up on that. Hey, but they're bidding it. No, time's up. Sorry. You know what I mean, Puddin'? I think if nobody's bidding, like if let's say you've got this at $20, and any more bids? You don't want to do that for 20 minutes when nobody else is bidding. But if people are bidding and bids are coming in, you got to let that person get as much for their item as possible. Does that make sense, Puddin'? Because just put yourself in that place. You know, you find out you have a rare piece and it's going for a lot of money, and then Kevin's just like, okay, cut. But Kevin, sorry, time limit. You know, you wouldn't. I'm sure you wouldn't like that. Maybe that's not what you meant, and maybe I misunderstood you. But let me do a poll. Okay, there's your vote is up there. Hi, Aurora. Yeah. I have so much I want to sell. I'm just overwhelmed thinking about it. Oh, just do it. Like Nike says, just do it. I have some Corningware that was my great-grandmother's and it has never been used. Well, you should get in it, Lisa. Just get in it. You don't see the vote, Nancy? It's right up there. See it on top? Refresh your chat, Nancy. You can do it, Tracy B. You've been on panel in the Patreon. You can do it. You don't have to show your face. You can just put a, you know how like Catty Texas Girl just shows her cards? You could do it just like that. Have your camera or your phone pointing down. You don't have to show your face. Hello, James. Like eBay bidding, I don't want to be here for flea market items and bids. You're like, this is a strange trade. Oh, we're helping the community, Seasons. Do you understand? Some people are in hard times, and people have made money to put their kids in private school and for new countertops in their kitchen and to help out. Their husbands have, serious health conditions like Parkinson's and stuff, and it's been really hard, and they've been able to make some really nice money by selling some stuff and making other people happy. What's wrong with that? That's helping the community. You know what I mean? It's helping people. They don't have to worry about eBay fees and all that crap, and the community gets, to support the community members and get something they want. You really don't like that, Seasons? It's a whole lot better than drama or exploiting victims of crime. Hi, Sweet Pea. Hi, Muppets in Manilow. Hi, Brontato. Yeah, I've gotten messages. I spoke to someone today, and I didn't even realize, how much this helped her. I mean, it really helped her. She was in a really tough place. I know it's helped me. So I mean, I don't know. It's I don't know, Seasons. It's helping out a community. Isn't that what you do? You help your community out. Oh, thanks, Sweet Pea. If August is going to, this is nice. I can do it. August going to California in August. Storage bin. Oh, really? Great. Okay, well, what's going to happen is, yeah, people enjoy it. It's good. It's good, clean fun that helps people. Choose selling. Yeah, right, exactly. So let me see what's going on with the vote here. Okay, so it looks like people have spoken, and it says 63% say rotating sellers for one item, which I think is good too. So depending on, like, of course, if there's only one person that has something to sell, that person will sell. But if there's three people up there, then we'll rotate through, and that'll be good because it'll also give a variation of what people want. You know what I mean? So it's not going to be if somebody has just jewelry, but another person has napkins, and another person has collectibles. It'll be a different item, and it'll be more variety. So we won't be like 30 minutes on napkins, and then 30 minutes on jewelry, and then 30 minutes on collectibles. It'll be one, a napkin lot, maybe, then a jewelry, a necklace, and then a collectible. I think it'll be better, and it'll be give everybody a chance. And Deb on the Move, I don't know if you're here, but we want you to come on as well, because I don't know whether your internet went out or somebody had said you were going to start selling, and then the Zoom went out and all of that. We have enough sellers to rotate now. Okay. Yeah, and then Kevin, like sometimes in the beginning when it's slow and nobody's up on and then if you do have one person, then of course they can keep selling until we get more people up on panel. All right, so I think it's going to snow. When is it going to snow? It's snowing this weekend, I think. So anyway, yeah, so I figure we'll at least do some auction tomorrow and some on Sunday. And like I said, depending on... We've been selling 12 hours or so for... Yeah. Uh-oh. Hold on a minute. If somebody... if something comes up, we want to break and then come back. I mean, we can just, we fly by the seat of our pants. So I might set it up for like a 3:30 start time tomorrow. Because I'll be here. And like I said, I don't have to be on panel. Like I was able to go to the restaurant for like 2 hours. So that was nice. And then other people are selling. And if everybody, helps out, that's great. And then people can benefit. So I'm going to get us into the next live. Now you just stay right there. Don't move. It's going to direct you into the next live. All right. So stay right there. Don't leave. Well, no, I shouldn't say that. It's going to direct you into the next live. You do whatever it says to do.